Master the Express, Edinburgh to Glasgow with the 385 has been confirmed. Take on modern Scottish traction with ScotRail Class 385 EMU electric multiple unit between Scotland's two biggest cities. Train Sim World 3 ScotRail Express Edinburgh to Glasgow coming January 26th, 27th Aussies. New year, new content. Before last year's festivities, some of you may have seen some of the teasers for forthcoming Train Sim World content, and many of you were quick to identify the distinctive cab of ScotRail's Class 385. This modern electric multiple unit will form the rolling stock for Train Sim World 3's first release through our partner program, Train Sim World 3 ScotRail Express Edinburgh to Glasgow, developed by Rivet Games. Here's a screenshot of a pair of 385s passing each other. For those new to Train Sim World, Rivet Games have worked on previously released Train Sim World compatible route add-ons such as the popular West Cornwall Local and Island Line 2022 routes. Their latest route, set not far from their base in Stirling, is their longest to date and covers the busy line between Scotland's two biggest cities, Edinburgh and Glasgow. I should point out that Rivet's not new to Scotland either, because they actually built the Cathcart Circle route for DTG. Glasgow Queen Street Station with a 385 in the platform. Both cities are recreated in detail, making use of that iconic railway vista with the Balmoral Hotel looking gracefully over Edinburgh Waverly Station. Along the line lie a succession of stations familiar to those who regularly use the route, not me, some of which were teased by Rivet Games themselves before Christmas. Linlithgow, Polmont, Falkirk and High are just some... Polmont and Falkirk High are just some of the locations separated by impressive viaducts through Glasgow that will be familiar to players of the Cathcart Circle route add-on. This route sees players arrive in gloriously renovated Glasgow Queen Street Station rather than Glasgow Central. Locomotive unit, the Class 385. Looks kind of like a shark with a big nose. Moving virtual passengers along this intercity line is ScotRail's Class 385, dressed with the saltire and national colour of Scotland. Inside the train are a number of small but important details, such as the inclusion of accessible seat covers in the appropriate locations and the introduction of a working train monitoring system. Hey, this long-awaited and highly requested feature will see PIS announcements in the game for the first time, with TMS capable of altering the frequency of announcements along with a selection of categories. Such a feature brings an additional layer of roleplay and immersion into this Train Sim World 3 route, as well as an extra tool to set up when preparing the train for a select service. The announcements can also be heard from the AI Class 385 services for added immersion when roaming on foot. Rivet do often do the experimental stuff that just becomes a core part of the game later. It's kind of cool. So bring on another one. Train monitoring system. So that's the verbal announcements if you didn't get it. There's another 385 sitting in a platform from the view of inside a 385. On top of this, the working guard panels introduced in the Island Line at 2022 route add-on and the automatic blinds for the first class section of each train also feature on the Class 385, which means you don't quite have a guard mode yet. So still not an additional driving role or train role, but you can at least do some of it and pretend. As for the unit itself, these 3 and 4 car overhead electrical units with a top speed of 100 mph an hour will operate densely timetabled services between Edinburgh and Glasgow, as well as stock moves to and from their depot. Contemporary Scottish traction has long been requested by the community since the release of Cathcart Circle, and since being introduced to the Scottish Rail Network in 2018, the Class 385 has played an important part in keeping Scotland's rail services modern, clean, spacious and better for the environment. That sounds like a brochure. Those wishing to make use of the Class 385 and Cathcart Circle can do so using Scenario Planner. There's one of the big viaducts they were talking about. Edinburgh Glasgow also brings some unique and first-time features to the environment of a Train Sim World 3 route. AI-controlled trams run through the Edinburgh suburbs and Edinburgh Castle looms over the line as trains leave for Glasgow. Scenery is characterised by the abundant greenery around each of the 8 intermediate stations, along with cuttings bordered by steep rock faces, particularly noticeable when leaving Edinburgh Waverly. The route will take advantage of all the weather and lighting updates for Train Sim World 3 so that services can be run in the various seasonal conditions experienced what will be the northernmost route in Train Sim World. Couple more 385s. Couple at dawn or sunset. As with all Train Sim World routes, there will also be a load of collectibles to find, including the local relevant haggis plushies and bagpie themed suitcases. A haggis plushie. When haggis is like kind of the cross showing the shape of an egg and a potato, I suppose. We're going to get a plushie version. It's a bit weird, but anyway. A number of hidden interiors to some station buildings are also accessible, and the classic ScotRail planters seen in Cathcart Circle return as a static scenery object, so they're not a collectible this time. Hidden interiors are also accessible. Rivet do push the boundaries on that a little bit. It will be available for Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Epic Games Store, and Steam. £29.99, $39.99 American dollars, or €35.99 euros. In Australia, that'll probably be between $55 and $60 in Aussie dollars. New Zealanders, 60 to 78 probably, be my guess, depending on what Steam does for you. Estimated download size is 4 gig. There you go. Oh yes, I forgot. Let's flip back to the roadmap because they did an interview about this one. ScotRail Express, Edinburgh to Glasgow, Rivet Games interview. So this is an interview between JD and Jasper. So I'll just say the name or the initials and then I'll read out the text. JD. Good to see you again. We're super excited for this. Why this route and this loco? It's not a loco, JD, but you always say that. It's an EMU. Jasper answered, Edinburgh to Glasgow was one of the first routes we've wanted to make for quite some time now. It's right at our doorstep, has a cool new train running on it, and it also features many remarkable areas that we wanted to bring and now have into Train Sim World 3. JD, what have you learnt from your previous TSW add-on releases when building the route? Jasper, that we love the idea of going beyond what players expected gameplay-wise. We started this in our Island Line 2022, where we opened up several areas for the player to walk into. JD, your last add-on, Island Line 2022, was the last for TSW2. What has been the difference when developing an add-on for TSW2 and 3? Jasper says the lighting is drastically different and presents a multitude of new challenges and different ways to work. And here's an example screenshot of a 385 at a yellow signal. So it is a 385. JD, in what period is the route set? Jasper, the route is set in the here and now, so it's modern. That means you can experience a real true-to-life version in Train Sim World 3. Also means the critics will be on their necks. JD asks, what was the most challenging part of creating this add-on? Jasper says, Waverly Station was one of the most challenging stations we've ever done. Undertaken by 2 artists, they tried to capture an accurate representation of the model and bring it to life in Train Sim World 3. And Edinburgh Glasgow was a very dense route for a small team like theirs. We had to prioritise stations and scenery while still finding time to implement new features. That is a big building, isn't it? It's a big station, nestled into a very old and classic city. JD says describe the route in 3 words. Jasper says detailed, authentic, Scottish. What has it been like working with ScotRail? Jasper says working with ScotRail has been a pleasure. They're always quick, super helpful, and overall just nice people. They wouldn't say anything else though, would they? JD, Rivet Games are based in Scotland. How excited are you to bring your second Scottish route to Train Sim World? Not I said your second, because it kind of is, because they did the other one. Jasper says, very excited. So many of us have been using this route in real life, and rebuilding it for Train Sim World 3 was a super exciting experience. Rebuilding. Was there a TSC version of it? JD says, this is your longest route to date, clocking in at 48 miles or 77 kilometres. What stations can expect What stations can players expect to stop at en route? I did that so well. Jasper. The route is framed by two breathtaking stations, Edinburgh Waverly with its massive glass and metal roof structure and the many open spaces at one end, and Glasgow Queen Street with its unique approach at the other end. Both feature a very unique and different architecture. In total, there are 10 stations along the way for you to discover. JD, are there any surprises in store in the scenarios for this route? Jasper, we always aim for interesting scenarios with unusual and challenging situations different from what's in the timetable services. But that would ruin the surprise. I actually kind of look forward to this, to be honest, because they understand that, yeah, there's a simulation crowd and there's the really serious people, but there's also the gamers that want to play. And they certainly play to the gamer aspect. JD says, what iconic landmarks can players expect to see when they're driving the route? Jasper says, we've spent quite some time making sure the route features as many remarkable buildings and structures as possible. This includes the famous Edinburgh Castle, which is scenically lit at night times, the Scott Monument and many other scenes around Edinburgh, as well as the Avon Railway Viaduct, Murrayfield Stadium and the Edinburgh Tram as a working AI train. First tram in Train Sim World, but not drivable, it's only an AI. But it opens the door. Thanks, Rivet. Trams. For you Americans, they mean trolleys or streetcars. You know you're the only ones that use those words, right? Everyone, the whole rest of the world calls them trams. Trams are not things hung on wires. Bloody Americans. Anyway, I digress. There's the castle. It's big. It's well lit. JD says, with the Isle 9 2022, players really enjoyed the amount of exploring on foot they could do. Is there the same approach taken on this route? Jasper, absolutely yes. With Edinburgh Glasgow, we're heading in even more walkable areas, sometimes hidden behind doors. First openable doors on buildings. Now that's good. Up the quality of our station interiors by a lot to make it interesting wander around, added usable elevators and interactive pianos. Well, okay. The elevators, I guess, came from the Christmas route. And there's an example inside of a station there. It looks like your average modern station with your classic railway-style furniture that's impossible to vandalise. There's one thing working in the rail industry has taught me is that if it can move, it will get stolen or smashed or used to smash something else. Excuse me there. JD, how much of Edinburgh Waverly is accessible? Platforms, concourse, for instance. Jasper, you're able to explore the front half of the station with this release. This includes the 2 ramps going up to the street, where you can enjoy the view onto the tracks from a custom platform. Rough an opportunity. There's 1 working elevator, and players can go over its iconic walkway, getting a perfect overview of the station. JD, what collectibles can players expect from this route? They're also called route tasks. I don't think they're called collectibles anymore, JD. Jasper says, we have the traditional ones like an Edinburgh-themed poster, the route map, and 2 more traditional Scottish ones, a haggis plushie that you can put on a hat. Now I'm even more confused. Okay, I need to see this. And a suitcase that reveals a bagpipe once collected. The iconic ScotRail planters, however, are not included as a collectible, but they sure are as a scenery object. JD, what is your favourite part of the BR Class 385 electric multiple unit? Jasper, definitely its iconic looks combined with the features it packs you'd expect from a modern train like this. JD, what is the most challenging part of creating this locomotive? It's not a locomotive, JD. It's an EMU. Sorry. Jasper, the overall layout of the train. There are many different layouts for the individual coaches, which make working on the model difficult because we'd often need to remember that we need to apply that little change to all the other versions as well. JD, what unique features have you implemented into the BR385 electric multiple unit? Jasper, with the Class 385, we're bringing in working train monitoring system, TMS, into Train Sim World 3 for the first time. From there you can control a number of things, including our new announcement system. You can select from multiple categories and if a certain announcement plays just once or more often. This adds a new dimension to the game. We've had that in nothing in Train Sim World, but in some other games that I won't mention. But you'd have seen them on my streams anyway. So we can do some announcements now, which is pretty cool. Look, kind of like maybe you do this thing for doors too. Just looking at the menu in the middle there. Cool. Should be fun to play with it. Of course, we also kept the working guard panels we introduced with the Island Line 2022, and we added automatically setting blinds depending on the sunshine for the first class section of the train. Got to protect the toffees. JD, will there be any tutorials for the loco? It's not a loco. Jasper says, of course there's a tutorial in the training centre available. JD, what physics considerations did you need to take into account for the loco? Not a loco. Jasper, a big point with the physics of this train was given the dynamic braking power should be similar regardless of how many coaches you have, and so this is taken into account via the simulgraph by checking the weight of the train. There is also blending of air to complement the electric braking, which will kick in to help reach the target deceleration, get the job done if you don't have any power. And that is the end of the interview. So this route is out on the 26th of January, 27th for Aussies and New Zealanders and Argentinians and other people on the correct side of the date line to the rest of you. Smug little bastard, aren't I? Anyway, I live in your future. If you want the lotto numbers, send me a DM. All good. Anyway, that's it for this route, and it looks interesting. Very much looking forward to getting my hands on it and playing it and showing it to you guys. Alrighty, have fun, folks. See you later. Bye.